There is a mineral inside your body right now that is so fundamental to your brain chemistry, your hormonal system, and your psychological architecture that without adequate levels of it, nothing else works properly. Not your testosterone production, not your dopamine synthesis, not your serotonin regulation, not your prefrontal cortex function, not your immune response, not your sleep quality, not your capacity to feel motivated, focused, emotionally stable, or genuinely alive to your own experience. This mineral is involved in over 300 enzymatic reactions in the human body. It is the second most abundant trace mineral in the human organism after iron. It is so critical to male reproductive and neurological function that the highest concentrations of it anywhere in the human body are found in two places, the brain and the testes. Its name is zinc, and most men reading this right now are deficient in it. Not borderline deficient, not slightly below optimal, measurably, consequentially, chronically deficient in ways that are directly, documentably affecting their cognition, their mood, their drive, their hormonal health, and the quality of every single day they live. And here's the part nobody is saying out loud. One of the primary mechanisms driving this deficiency in men, one of the most significant and most overlooked sources of zinc loss in the male body, is ejaculation. Every single time it is happening, measurable, documented, biochemically confirmed. And the cumulative effect of that loss, repeated across days and weeks and months and years without understanding or compensation, is a slow, invisible hemorrhage of the very mineral your brain needs most to function at the level you were built for. Stay with me, because what you are about to learn is going to change how you think about this mineral, this practice, and your own neurological health permanently. Let us begin with zinc's role in the brain, because this is the foundation of everything that follows, and the full picture of what zinc actually does inside your skull is something that even most physicians do not fully appreciate. The brain contains specialized zinc-rich neurons concentrated primarily in the hippocampus, the amygdala, and the neocortex, the regions governing memory formation, emotional regulation, and higher cognitive function respectively. These zinc-containing neurons release zinc as a signaling molecule at synapses, meaning zinc is not just a passive nutrient in the brain. It is an active neurotransmitter-like agent that directly modulates how neurons communicate with each other. Zinc regulates the activity of NMDA receptors, the glutamate receptors central to synaptic plasticity, learning, and memory consolidation. It modulates GABA transmission, which governs the brain's inhibitory balance and directly affects anxiety levels and emotional regulation. It influences the serotonin transporter, affecting how efficiently the brain recycles and utilizes its serotonin supply. And it is a critical cofactor in the enzymatic conversion of tryptophan to serotonin and of tyrosine to dopamine, meaning without adequate zinc, the brain cannot efficiently manufacture its two most important mood and motivation neurotransmitters regardless of how much dietary precursor is available. This last point deserves to sit with you for a moment. You could be consuming adequate tryptophan and tyrosine through your diet. Your body could have all the raw amino acid material it needs to produce serotonin and dopamine. But if zinc is insufficient, the enzymatic machinery that performs the conversion operates below capacity, and the neurotransmitters do not get made at the rate your brain requires them. The result is a brain that is chemically starved of the very molecules responsible for mood stability, motivational drive, cognitive clarity, and emotional resilience, not because the raw materials are absent, but because the manufacturing cofactor has been depleted. Now here is where the conversation about semen retention intersects with this neuroscience in a way that most people in this space have never fully laid out with biochemical precision. Because the question is not just whether zinc matters to the brain. It clearly does. The question is how significant the zinc loss through ejaculation actually is, what that loss does to the body's zinc economy over time. Because the question is not just whether zinc matters to the brain, it clearly does. The question is how significant the zinc loss through ejaculation actually is, what that loss does to the body's zinc economy over time, and whether the brain is the first or the last organ to feel the deficit. What I'm about to show you is going to be more specific and more concerning than you expect. Stay locked in. Seminal plasma contains extraordinarily high concentrations of zinc relative to virtually every other bodily fluid. Studies measuring zinc content in human seminal plasma have found concentrations ranging from 1.5 to 3.0 millimoles per liter, roughly 100 times higher than zinc concentrations in blood plasma. Each ejaculation contains between 1 and 3 milligrams of zinc, depending on individual variation, ejaculation frequency, and baseline zinc status. To put that in context, the recommended daily intake of zinc for adult men is approximately 11 milligrams. A single ejaculation can therefore represent between 9 and 27% of the daily recommended intake lost in a single event. For the man ejaculating once daily, a pattern far from unusual in the modern pornography-saturated environment, this represents a daily zinc loss equivalent to between 9 and 27% of his total daily requirement, on top of the zinc already being demanded by every other zinc-dependent process in his body. For the man ejaculating multiple times daily, the mathematics become genuinely alarming from a nutritional standpoint. And here is the critical physiological reality that makes this loss particularly impactful. The body does not distribute zinc deficiency equally across all tissues and functions simultaneously. It prioritizes. When zinc availability falls below the threshold required to meet all demands, the body implements a triage system, maintaining zinc supply to the most immediately life-critical functions first, and reducing supply to functions it classifies as lower urgency. Reproductive function and immune response receive priority. Brain optimization, the fine-tuning of neurotransmitter synthesis, synaptic plasticity, and cognitive performance, is classified as lower urgency than survival, which means the brain is often the last place to receive zinc when supply is tight, and the first place to feel the functional consequences of chronic insufficiency. What I want to walk you through now is the specific sequence of neurological and psychological symptoms that emerge as zinc deficiency progresses. Because when I list these, I want you to recognize that this is not a rare clinical condition affecting a small minority. This is a description of the daily experience of a significant proportion of modern men. And when you see the cause and effect chain clearly, the path forward becomes obvious. Keep watching. The neuropsychiatric consequences of zinc deficiency have been studied with increasing rigor over the past 2 decades, and the findings are both extensive and deeply relevant to the modern male experience. At the mild end of the deficiency spectrum, the symptoms include reduced cognitive processing speed, difficulty with sustained attention, increased mental fatigue under cognitively demanding conditions, and a subtle but pervasive blunting of emotional range. The world does not feel as vivid. Humor lands less, music moves less, food tastes flatter. The sensory richness of ordinary experience is slightly but consistently diminished. As deficiency deepens, the neuropsychiatric picture becomes more pronounced. Research published in Nutritional Neuroscience and multiple peer-reviewed journals has found robust associations between zinc insufficiency and clinical depression, with some studies finding zinc levels significantly lower in depressed patients compared to controls, and zinc supplementation trials demonstrating measurable antidepressant effects in both treatment-resistant depression and as an adjunct to conventional antidepressant medication. The mechanism is direct. Zinc deficiency reduces BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, the protein responsible for neuronal growth, synaptic maintenance, and the brain's capacity to physically remodel itself in response to experience and learning. Low BDNF is one of the most consistent neurobiological findings in clinical depression, and zinc is one of the most critical regulators of BDNF expression. A brain with chronically low zinc is a brain with chronically low BDNF, A brain that is literally less plastic, less adaptable. Now let us bring testosterone into this picture, because the zinc-testosterone relationship is one of the most well-documented and most consequential connections in male endocrinology. Zinc is an essential cofactor for the enzyme 5-alpha reductase, which converts testosterone to its more potent form, dihydrotestosterone. It is required for the proper function of luteinizing hormone receptors in the testes, the receptors that receive the pituitary signal to produce testosterone. And it directly inhibits aromatase, the enzyme that converts testosterone to estrogen. What this means in plain biological language is that zinc is simultaneously required for testosterone production, activation, and the suppression of its conversion into estrogen. When zinc is chronically deficient, all three of these processes are compromised simultaneously. Testosterone production falls. The conversion of available testosterone to its active form is impaired, and the conversion of remaining testosterone to estrogen accelerates. The clinical result is a hormonal profile that in men looks like accelerated aging, lower free testosterone, higher estrogen relative to testosterone, reduced muscle protein synthesis, increased central fat deposition, reduced libido despite the hormonal drivers of libido being depleted, emotional lability, reduced competitive drive, the progressive erosion of the masculine hormonal signature that governs energy, ambition, and the fundamental quality of engagement with life. And this hormonal deterioration is being quietly, continuously driven, in part, by the repeated mineral loss of ejaculation in men whose dietary zinc intake is not remotely sufficient to compensate. I want to stop here and address something directly, because I can already anticipate the objection. Can't I just take a zinc supplement and solve this? And the answer is, partially yes. Supplementation helps. But here is what supplementation cannot address. The body's zinc economy is not just about total intake versus total loss. It is about the ratio of zinc available for brain optimization versus zinc being consumed by reproductive fluid synthesis. Even with supplementation, the man who is continuously producing and expelling zinc-rich seminal fluid is running his zinc economy at a permanent deficit relative to the man who is not. The math does not fully close with a supplement alone. The conservation practice is the variable that changes the fundamental equation. Let us talk about what zinc abundance actually feels like, because the clinical literature on zinc repletion in deficient men describes a phenomenology that maps almost perfectly onto what practitioners of semen retention consistently report in the weeks and months of their practice. Studies examining psychological outcomes in men receiving zinc supplementation after documented deficiency report consistent findings across multiple research groups. Improved mood stability and reduced anxiety symptoms, enhanced cognitive processing speed and working memory capacity, increased motivation and drive, improved sleep quality and more restorative slow-wave sleep, heightened sensory acuity, food tasting richer, sensory experiences feeling more vivid and engaging. The repletion of zinc, in other words, does not just correct a deficiency. It returns men to a baseline of neurological and psychological functioning that they had forgotten was available to them, a baseline they had been living below for so long that the diminished state had come to feel normal. Now consider what happens when a man simultaneously stops the primary non-dietary source of zinc loss, ejaculation, and maintains adequate dietary zinc intake. The zinc economy of the body shifts dramatically. The brain's zinc supply, no longer competing with reproductive fluid synthesis for the available pool, begins to normalize. BDNF production recovers. Neurotransmitter synthesis runs at full enzymatic capacity. The NMDA receptors in the hippocampus, the ones governing memory and learning, receive the zinc modulation they require to function optimally. The cognitive and psychological changes that follow are not subtle. They are the changes that practitioners describe most consistently and most emphatically across cultures and contexts. The mental clarity, the emotional stability, the return of genuine motivation, the sharpening of memory and focus, the recovery of the sensory richness of ordinary experience. This is zinc biology. It is measurable. It is reproducible. This is zinc biology. It is measurable. It is reproducible. And it is available to every man willing to understand and honor the mineral economy of his own body. There is one final dimension of the zinc story that I want to leave you with, because it connects the individual biochemistry to something with much larger implications. Global zinc deficiency is estimated to affect approximately 17% of the world's population and is particularly prevalent in populations consuming diets high in processed foods and low in zinc-rich whole foods like red meat, shellfish, seeds, and legumes. The modern Western diet, refined grains, processed foods, seed oils, minimal organ meat, is a remarkably poor source of bioavailable zinc. Against this dietary backdrop of marginal zinc sufficiency, the modern male is simultaneously experiencing unprecedented levels of pornography-driven ejaculation frequency, patterns of sexual behavior with no evolutionary precedent in terms of their frequency, their dissociation from actual reproductive context, and their capacity for continuous repetition. The collision of marginal dietary zinc with chronic zinc loss through unprecedented ejaculation frequency is producing a generation of men who are neurologically and hormonally operating at a fraction of their biological potential, and who have no framework for understanding why they feel the way they feel, or what is driving the steady erosion of their cognitive and emotional capacity. This is not a moral argument. This is a public health observation dressed in biochemistry, and the solution is available to every man who understands it. I want to speak to you now about something that goes beyond minerals and enzymatic reactions and receptor modulation. I want to speak to you about the quality of your experience of being alive, because ultimately that is what zinc deficiency steals, not dramatically, not all at once, but gradually, quietly, in the small erosions of vividness and engagement and aliveness that accumulate across months and years into a life that feels somehow less than it should. Less colorful, less engaging, less moving, less yours. You were not built for that diminishment. Your brain was not designed to run on depleted zinc and suppressed BDNF and undernourished dopamine pathways. Your brain was not designed to run on depleted zinc and suppressed BDNF and undernourished dopamine pathways. It was designed to run full, to find the world genuinely interesting, to feel genuine enthusiasm for the things that matter to you, to experience the full emotional and sensory richness of being a living, conscious human being in a world that is actually extraordinary if the neurological equipment to perceive it is functioning as it was designed. That equipment is yours. It belongs to you. It is waiting, not for some external intervention, not for a medication or a supplement or a productivity system, but for the simple, profound, deeply personal decision to stop hemorrhaging the mineral foundation it runs on. Every day of retention is a day of zinc recovery, a day of BDNF recovery, a day of dopamine receptor sensitization, a day of testosterone optimization, a day of the brain moving incrementally back toward the full, vivid, engaged, powerful experience of being alive. The hemorrhage can stop today. The recovery begins the moment it does. And the version of you on the other side of that recovery, clear, sharp, emotionally alive, hormonally whole, has been waiting patiently for you to arrive. If this gave you something today, if it connected dots you have been trying to connect for a long time, please give this video a like right now. It takes 1 second and it means everything for this work to reach the men who need this information most urgently. Share this with someone whose mental health and cognitive vitality you care about, someone who is struggling and does not know why. This video might give them the most important piece of the puzzle they have been missing. Subscribe if you want to keep building this biological literacy together. Every video on this channel is designed to give you the depth of understanding that actually changes the trajectory of your health and your life. And thank you, sincerely, from the heart, for showing up for this today, for taking your own neurological health seriously enough to seek real answers. That seriousness is itself a sign that something important in you is still very much alive and fighting for the life it deserves. Feed it, protect it, build it, stay sharp, stay whole. See you in the next one.